The second gateway we're going to explore is sangha, which is this field of relatedness. And the outer way of taking refuge in the sangha is really turning towards those relationships that help us to realize connectedness, open-heartedness, oneness. So that's really what it is. It's to take the second refuge that I'm talking about in sangha is really in those relationships that help to wake us up. And so traditionally, the sangha was the community of monks and nuns that grew up to be around the Buddha. It's really wide, and sangha is really all those that we belong to, that remind us of what we value, those that inspire us, those that help us to remember our own goodness. So we find this community sometimes in meditation gatherings, in healing communities. We have at the Insight Meditation Community of Washington, this one, we have what are called spiritual friends groups. There's probably about 30 of them now that meet once every other week and bring these teachings to their life. They explore what happens, how do we work with addiction? How do we work with intimacy issues? How do we work when we've turned on ourselves, when we're having conflict with others? It's a way in an intimate setting to explore the whole spiritual path. That's just an example of taking refuge in sangha. This is outer sangha. Those that help us see more clearly, feel more deeply. A friend of mine described her parents, and he was losing his eyesight, and she was helping him to see by letting him know what was around and really bringing alive for him the beauty that was here. And she was losing her hearing. So he was helping her by letting her know, what people were saying and just bringing her into the dialogue, into communications. I really loved hearing about that, and hearing about it reminded me of the story of these two elderly couples who were having a friendly conversation, and one of the guys asked the other guy, Fred, you went to that memory clinic. How'd it go? Outstanding, says Fred. They taught us all the latest psychological techniques of visualization, association. Made a great difference. That's great. Then the guy asked him, what's the name of the clinic? Frank goes blank, of course. You can tell what happens. Frank goes blank, and he's thinking about it, but he can't remember. And then a smile broke across his face, and he asked, what do you call that flower with a long stem and thorns? You mean a rose? Yes, that was it. And he turns to his wife. Rose, what was the name of that clinic? So we help each other out. So I really think of refuge and sangha and this field of relationship as those that we awaken with. And I wanted to share a story I recently read in a book called A Monastery Within, which is very much what we're talking about tonight, this diamond that's within us all. And it's stories on the Buddhist path. It's written by Gil Fronsdale. It's a beautiful book, A Monastery Within. So in one story, we hear about this man who arrives at the monastery, and he's exhausted. He's discouraged, he's hopeless, kind of a youngish man, but he doesn't feel he's capable of living worldly life, and he hopes the monastery will provide a pathway to freedom. It's the birth of a second child that pushed him over the edge, and the frustration demands on his time, and he's also worn out by his older child's constant pushing the limits of acceptable behavior. So he's seeking a place to practice and really a teacher to help him find peace. So to enter the monastery, he finds out he has to do a 7-day sitting in solitude. So that's a way to prove himself worthy. And so he does, and it's exceedingly difficult. Just as when we have painful layers of the psyche and we start getting quiet and let go of all the normal distractions, they all come up. So the first 2 days that he's sitting, he's just crying and crying. And then for the third day, there's waves of nausea and fear that come up. Fourth day, he starts reviewing his life. On the fifth and sixth day, he questions every belief he ever had. Seventh day, he feels calmer and more rested, and he's eager to be admitted to the monastery and meet his new teacher. So the abbess comes in for him, and she congratulates him on doing the solo retreat, and says, I'll introduce you to your new teachers. It took us a while, but we found the ideal people who can bring you both spiritual strength and freedom. So the abbess leads the man out the front gate of the monastery, and waiting for him were his wife and 2 children. And they're very happy to see him, so the man races out to embrace them. And then the abbess declares, your life and 2 children are your ideal teachers. In your case, nowhere else but in your family will you find the freedom you are looking for. And with that, the abbess closed the gate. So we might wonder in our own lives how often we are thinking the diamond is out there and the way to the diamond is one thing, when all of our most profound waking up happens right where we are, right with the people, our parents, our children, our friends, right with the people, especially where we're triggered. It's if we don't work it out, it's still there. This is the place. So that's another example of refuge, is to really bring a wholehearted and interested attention to what's going on right with the people in our lives. Another expression of refuge is finding that when we're most afraid and confused, often we can find that in large belonging, sensing the care and the company of others, allows us the space to then be able to be with the fear. And I think as I say that of a dear friend, and I love bringing his name up, Alex, who was a beloved part of our sangha, and now it's been, I don't even know, maybe 8 years since he passed away. But so poignant of seeing how, as his community gathered around him during those final months, how much the love and belonging to others, there was something timeless that he felt in that gave him the space to be with the realness of the passing of this life. And he said it. He named that. So sangha, community, reminds us of a truth that we can't discover if we think we're going off into a cave to meditate, which is, it's not an ego self that is waking up to some enlightenment. What we're waking up to is the truth that we belong to each other, that this love that we sense, this field of loving, really is our true home. That is the warmth and shine of the diamond. So in the seeking of outer sangha, I'm just giving you some examples. A final way I'll name is that it's with this kind of engagement with others that we get touched in the very place that is our deepest inner sanctuary. Again, a story from a monastery within. An engineer visits the monastery, and he's been meditating and visiting the monastery regularly for years, and the practices make sense to him. They're logical and they're pragmatic, and he's got some hope he might overcome his chronic unhappiness and deeply felt pain by just systematically applying the practices. So he tries everything that the abbess gives him, every single practice. And at first he's real enthusiastic with each one, but each one, in some way, he encounters this wall of suffering, and he can't get past it. And then as soon as he really realizes he can't get past it, he just starts trying to think his way out, and it never works. So after many rounds, the abbess decides to approach it differently. So she gives him a special practice, one that he's to do outside the monastery for the next 2 years. And then when he's done it, he can then come back and get what she said, the deeper teachings. This is what he was assigned to do as a practice, to volunteer 10 hours a week at a maternity ward at a hospital nearby, where he would hold babies that were born prematurely. And with enough, the understanding being that if they didn't have enough physical contact, they wouldn't grow in a healthy way. So he plunged in, he trusted the abbess, and holding these very small, fragile beings ever so carefully. And he really watched every breath because he had this sense that, he didn't know if they would just stop breathing. And he found that the most effective way to care for these babies was to hold them very gently to his chest. 6 months, and he starts feeling something new. And it's a little spot of warmth and softness right at the center of his being. And it's kind of foreign, and it didn't fit his ideas about himself. So he ignored it by not thinking about it, which was a very good thing, because if he had thought about it, he would have moved away. It would have interfered with it. Over the months, this warmth expanded to fill his whole body. And gradually, over those months, it started to dissolve that hard, dark wall around his heart. So he completed his time. He returned, and the abbess saw that he was transformed, that he was no longer desperate. He wasn't running from something. He wasn't trying to fit everything into a conceptual framework. He was more there. And so he got his new instructions, which were, when you meditate, don't think about what is happening. Don't think about what is happening. Rather, let your awareness be seated in the tender warmth you feel in your body. If you can do this, any meditation practice you do will be fruitful. And the man found this to be true. So this is a movement from head, from thinking to heart, to this inner refuge. This is the inner refuge for sangha, which is that loving presence, which has a visceral sense of warmth and openness that allows life to be as it is. It's that allowing quality that in the moments that we're with each other or with ourselves, and we're totally allowing, we're paying attention, but totally allowing, in that space of allowing, a natural tenderness and warmth shines through. We're back home again. So the inner gateway is really any way of paying attention that helps us to awaken that tenderness. And it may be that we look at each other and see the goodness and we feel that love and appreciation, or look at each other and see the suffering and feel the compassion. Whatever lets us feel and open into that tenderness is taking refuge in sangha in an inner way. Okay, so let's reflect again, if you will. Sense yourself pausing. So you begin really by taking refuge in Dharma, in the truth of the moment, to pause. Feel your breath, feel yourself arriving here. So you're going inward rather than fixating the attention outward. You're becoming intimate again with the experience right inside you. You might feel the breath at the heart. And bringing to mind someone who's dear to you, someone with whom it's easy to feel love. Perhaps uncomplicated love. And that could be someone who's here alive or someone who's not alive. Could include a pet. And bring the presence of this being close in so you can see the eyes and see the sentience shining through those eyes, the intelligence, the love. And just sense what you love about this being, what the goodness is that you love. And sense your feeling of togetherness with this being. Just that space that's hard to name where you're really in a field together of loving presence. So you don't even have to think of the other anymore. You can just open into that warmth that's within, that radiance. Sometimes describe the radiant, empty heart. Empty because it's so open. Sense a possibility of just bringing others to mind and sensing them in that same field of loving. You might call the person an other, but it's the same one tender, warm, shining awareness. Mary Oliver writes, so every day I was surrounded by the beautiful crying forth of the ideas of God, one of which was you. I was surrounded by the beautiful crying forth of the ideas of God, one of which was you. Sensing perhaps whoever appears in your mind right now as an idea of God, as an expression of the sacred. So this is taking refuge in sangha, in loving awareness. Okay, the last refuge is taking refuge in the Buddha, our Buddha nature. And the outer way that we take this third refuge is by bringing to mind an embodiment of Buddha nature. It could be the historical Buddha or Jesus, the Divine Mother, Bodhisattva of compassion, someone who to you is wise, loving, could be a friend, a relative, a teacher. You bring to mind some being where those qualities of awakeness and tenderness and love shine through. And that helps to remind you, your resonance with that helps to remind you of how that diamond is right within you. So that's one way, that's the outer way. The inner way of taking refuge in the Buddha is by turning the attention and directly contemplating, reflecting, experiencing, and inhabiting this formless awareness that's right here. It's really sensing that and turning towards it. It's turning towards that which is looking through your eyes right now. And it's turning towards that which is listening right now. It's that alert inner stillness that's really aware of all that's happening. And you might imagine how your life would change if every day, many times, there was something in you that was recognizing and trusting that diamond of lucidity and awakeness and space that is always here. Awareness is always here. So we'll do our final of these 3 reflections. Now we're going to do the formal ceremony as a closing. And so again, I invite you just to close your eyes. And sense the arriving right in this pause. And sense your sincerity about exploring yet this third gateway. And you might want to begin by bringing to mind some figure that expresses the enlightened heart-mind. You can just experiment with that. This might or might not be your path, but it's powerful to bring to mind some being. It might be the Dalai Lama, it might be Mother Teresa or Gandhi, it might be Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion. It can be a spiritual figure or deity or a living being. But just to imagine the awakeness of that being, the sentience, the kindness, and just allow that radiance to surround you. So that if you imagine the mind of this awakened being, you can sense vastness and lucidity, clarity, and just sense that within you, how that mind lives right here, vastness and lucidity. If you imagine the heart of that being, and let that fill you with warmth and sensitivity. So you direct attention now inward. This is taking refuge in Buddha nature to see how that tender, radiant, all-inclusive awareness is living inside you. You can perhaps feel your body and heart and mind light up as if the sunlit sky is suffusing every cell of your body and shining through the places between the cells, the spaces. Just notice what it's like to pay attention to awareness. How is awareness experiencing sounds? You hear the sounds, listening. Experiencing the sensations that are here, the feelings. And just turning the mind, what's aware of all this? And just relax and let go into the openness, the open awakeness that's here. The essential stillness that's aware of vibration. The silence that's listening. This mystery that's here. Sri Ramakrishna says, O longing mind, dwell within the depth of your own pure nature. Do not seek your home elsewhere. Your naked awareness alone, O mind, is the inexhaustible abundance, the purity, the beauty, the true home for which you long so desperately. O longing mind, dwell within the depth of your own pure nature. So we close with a ceremony. It'll only take a couple of minutes. And it's a way of kind of bringing alive into your day a bit of what we explored tonight. And really this is about waking up from trance. And we all need a way to wake up from trance. And these are the three archetypical pathways of waking up by paying attention to this moment, paying attention to love, paying attention to awareness. Now, what you have, each of you should have a thread, a red thread. Is there anybody that doesn't have it? Can I see by hands? If you don't have a red thread, you're going to find, if you keep your hand up, that Glenn will bring it to you. So just keep your hand up. And I'm going to explain a little bit about the, you see the hands that are up? Thank you very much. This thread represents, it's a symbol of blessing, and it represents a thread taken from the robe of a monk. And they're sometimes called protection cords. And just to say, when Chogyam Trungpa, a Tibetan teacher, was asked, well, what are they protecting us from? His response was, well, yourself, of course. You know, because what are they protecting us from? They're protecting us from our forgetting, from the different ways that we chase after things, from the different ways that we reflexively push things away with our judgment, from the ways that we turn on ourselves, from the ways that we separate ourselves from each other. So the purpose of wearing this cord, and what we'll be doing is we'll be tying it around our wrist or around your neck. The purpose is a reminder. Oh, judging. Is this really bringing me more happiness, more freedom? It's a reminder. So it's sometimes said that in the marketplace, you are when you wear this, you're a monk or a nun in drag. Because you're remembering your true home by wearing it. So what we'll do is, if you will, take one of each end in each hand, like this. And we'll begin a reflection, and after each reflection, you'll be tying a knot into the cord. And this, while has been a very big part of the Buddhist tradition, the reflections and the cord are really a way to bring you home to your own path and your own freedom. The first reflection we just explored, this is taking refuge in Buddha, our Buddha nature, in the awakened heart-mind. So just to take a moment to sense, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you to take refuge in the awakened heart-mind? To sense in your own heart the possibility, the intention to turn towards this diamond, this naked awareness, this purity that's really at the source, your own awakeness. And as you sense this first of the three refuges, turning towards awareness, towards this natural luminosity of awareness, please tie the first knot into your cord. Again, the word faith means resting your heart in what is true. With this first knot, you're resting your heart, you're turning towards this truth of your own capacity and potential to be awake and free. For the second reflection, refuge in the Dharma, just to reflect what that means to you, whether the outer ways of taking refuge resonate, your intention and dedication to the teachings or practices that most you feel most help you become who you really are. And then in the deepest way, refuge in Dharma, your commitment to turning towards presence. And as you sense this refuge is alive for you, that this sense of dedicating yourself to this presence, sacred presence, living presence, then please tie the second knot. Okay, the third reflection is refuge in sangha. Again, sangha is loving relatedness. And just to sense what this means to you and how you might deepen your engagement in this way. Sensing the beings in your life. Sensing these relationships as portals to really awakening this heart, experiencing connectedness and oneness. So as you feel the meaning of taking refuge in sangha for you and your intention towards it, then please tie the third knot. So with tying the third knot, then this cord becomes fully activated. You've now infused it with a kind of dedication towards awareness, towards truth, and towards love. So just feel that. Just sense that there's some living dedication in this to help you remember, to help you turn over and over again to the awareness that's here, the truth of the moment, and the possibility of loving without holding back. Awareness, the truth of the present moment, and loving without holding back. And then deciding whether you want your cord around your neck or around your wrist, just place it there. And you might want to stand up for this. If it's around your neck, you're going to be putting it behind your head so that the two ends are on your chest. And then you're going to, and I'm suggesting you stand up because it'll be easier to work with a partner that way. You're going to turn to somebody nearby, and if you find there's nobody around you, just become the third person with people. And you're going to take turns in silence, helping the person to do a kind of knot that'll keep it on their wrist or around their neck. So finding a partner, helping each other. This is where sangha comes in. Very hard to do this ourselves. Yeah, and see if you can keep this in silence. And when you're done, please come back to sitting down and just close your eyes, come into silence. But take your time if you're not done. Sometimes this is a delicate operation here, I know. Yeah, so again, let's just to keep the mindfulness, you might close your eyes and let the attention go within. In a moment we're going to chant, but as you're sitting, just take a moment and sense your partner, whoever you helped, and sense that they are wearing a protection cord that's infused with their longing and intention to awaken, to turn towards awareness, to turn towards the truth of the present moment, to turn towards love. And just feel your wish for your partner. May you find refuge. May you be free. And know that you too are receiving blessings. Okay, your chant sheet, if you need it, to please use it. And we will chant together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. May the sincerity of our aspiration awaken our hearts and minds, allow us to realize the radiance, goodness, and love that's at our source. May this awakening ripple out to touch all beings everywhere. May there be peace on earth and peace everywhere. May all beings be free. Namaste.